What if I told you the biggest thing holding you back is you? Not your past, not the people who doubted you, not your bank account, not the world, just you. I know that sounds harsh, but if that sentence hit you in the stomach, keep listening. Because what you're about to hear is the same realization that completely flipped my life upside down. The idea comes from Brianna Wiest's book, The Mountain is You. And once you truly understand it, I promise, something deep inside you will shift. Let's start here. Have you ever noticed how sometimes, right before life gets good, you seem to ruin it? You finally start a workout routine, then stop. You meet someone great, then pull away. You try building a habit, then sabotage the progress. You get an opportunity, then convince yourself you're not ready. And afterward, you sit there wondering, what is wrong with me? Well, nothing is wrong with you, but something is happening inside you. Here's the truth most people never hear. Self-sabotage is not you trying to destroy your life. Self-sabotage is you trying to protect yourself. That's the twist, that's the punch, and that's the beginning of climbing your mountain. Before we dive deeper, pause for a second and look back at your life. Think of something big you wanted, a dream job, a healthier body, a new skill, a better relationship. Now think about how you may have gotten in your own way. Maybe you procrastinated. Maybe you got scared. Maybe you convinced yourself it wasn't the right time. You didn't do that because you're lazy. You didn't do that because you're broken. You didn't do that because you don't care. You did it because something in you wanted safety more than success. That's the core message of this book. And it's probably the most eye-opening thing most people will ever hear. Because here's the secret. We don't resist change because change is bad. We resist change because change is unfamiliar. The brain prefers the familiar, even if the familiar hurts. And that's exactly why this story matters. Because if the mountain blocking your way is made out of you, then you are also the one who can move it. This is the moment in the hero's journey where you wake up. The part where you realize you're not stuck because life is unfair. You're stuck because you're afraid. And fear doesn't just say, don't climb. Fear says, you're not the kind of person who climbs. Now here's where it gets real. You have two versions of yourself. The old version, shaped by pain, confusion, survival, and habit. And the new version, shaped by growth, clarity, strength, and possibility. And the space between those two selves? That space is the mountain. But the mountain is not a punishment. It's a roadmap. Every trigger, every fear, every flaw, every doubt, they are not defects. They are directions. The things that hurt you are trying to tell you what needs to change. Brianna Wiest says it perfectly. Your new life is going to cost you your old one. And if that line doesn't stop you in your tracks, read it again. Because most people never climb their mountain, not because they can't, but because they refuse to let the old self die. Here's the question the book asks you to face. Are you willing to feel uncomfortable long enough to become someone new? It sounds simple, but it's the hardest work in the world. The moment you choose growth, your old identity starts to panic. It whispers, this isn't safe. This isn't you. What if you fail? And that's where self-sabotage begins. Not because you're weak, but because you're scared. And here's the twist that changed everything for me. Self-sabotage is not a roadblock. It is a clue. The part of you that avoids writing that book, that's the part afraid of judgment. The part of you that ends healthy relationships, that's the part afraid of being seen and still being rejected. The part of you that keeps your world small, that's the part trying to protect you from pain you felt decades ago. Your triggers aren't problems. They are messages. And once you start listening to those messages, you stop fighting yourself, and you start understanding yourself. And that is the first step up the mountain. We are just getting started. In the next section, you'll hear why perfectionism, procrastination, fear, envy, and emotional numbness are not flaws, but maps. If this already feels personal, wait till you hear what comes next. Let's pick up right where we left off. Now that you understand the mountain is you, the next step is seeing how that mountain is shaped. Because self-sabotage isn't random. It follows patterns. It wears disguises. It shows up dressed as motivation, discipline, self-control, perfectionism, strength. But underneath those masks, something else is happening. And here's where Brianna Wiest drops the hammer. Self-sabotage is simply your unconscious trying to protect you from a perceived threat. Not a real threat, a perceived one. What looks like weakness is actually safety in disguise. What looks like procrastination is actually fear disguised as planning. What looks like perfectionism is actually fear disguised as standards. And once you understand that, everything changes. The first disguise, perfectionism. Most people assume perfectionism means you have high standards. Nope. Perfectionism is delay. It's hiding. It's fear wearing a suit. Think about it. If something has to be perfect before you share it, you never have to share it. And if you never share it, nobody can judge it. Perfectionism isn't ambition, it's armor. It protects you from being seen and from being criticized once you are seen. So if you keep waiting until you're ready, here's the truth. You're not waiting for readiness. You're waiting for certainty. And certainty doesn't exist. The only cure for perfectionism is momentum. Start ugly. Start afraid. Start unprepared. Start anyway. The second disguise, procrastination. This one hurts, because procrastination looks lazy, but underneath, it's fear mixed with confusion. If you really want something, but you keep putting it off, it might not be resistance. It might be misalignment. You may not be procrastinating because a task is hard. You may be procrastinating because it doesn't fit who you are becoming. And that means you have two options. 1, push harder, and 2, tell the truth. If you always have energy for distractions, but never have energy for your goals, you don't have a motivation problem. You have a clarity problem. You're trying to build a version of your life that doesn't match the version of yourself that exists today. And that's not failure. That's feedback. The third disguise, uprooting. Ever notice how sometimes the moment life starts going well, you panic? You find reasons to leave the relationship. You search for problems to fix. You sabotage an opportunity. Most people think their mind is broken. It's not. It's scared. Because peace is unfamiliar. If your nervous system grew up in chaos, peace won't feel peaceful. It will feel suspicious. And without understanding this, your mind will drag you back into the same patterns because those patterns feel safer than happiness. That's the emotional gravity Wiest describes. We cling to who we used to be because that version of us survived. But survival is not living. The fourth disguise, pride. This is self-sabotage pretending to be strength. I don't need help. I can do it myself. I'm fine. We grew up believing strength means independence. But emotional isolation is not strength. It's fear of vulnerability. The moment you ask for help, you risk being judged, rejected, misunderstood. That's why pride feels safer than honesty. But no one climbs a mountain alone. Here's where the book takes a turn, not into self-blame, but into self-awareness. Because Wiest doesn't just tell you what's wrong, she tells you how to read yourself, how to listen to the emotions you're trying to silence. and she introduces one of the most powerful ideas in the entire book. Your triggers are not torture, they are teachers. Everyone loves to avoid triggers, block them, mute them, distract ourselves from them. But what if the things that hurt you are actually pointing you toward what needs healing? Think about these three emotions. Anger. Most people treat anger like a problem, but anger is a boundary alarm. It means something violated your values. Guilt. We treat guilt like punishment, but guilt is information. It's telling you either A, you acted against your values, or B, you're following someone else's values that you haven't released yet. Envy. This one is powerful. Envy doesn't mean you're bitter. It means you are seeing a version of yourself you haven't stepped into yet. Envy is direction. The thing you envy may actually be the thing you're meant to pursue. Triggers are not blocks, they are breadcrumbs. Follow them, and you start climbing. Ignore them, and you stay stuck. And that brings us to the next big question. Once you learn to listen to your emotions, how do you actually change your behavior? That's where emotional intelligence enters the story. The thing no one teaches in school, the one skill that separates growth from repetition. And the next section might just be the turning point of the entire journey. So now the mountain is visible. You're starting to see the patterns, the disguises, the emotional signals, and most importantly, the truth. You are not damaged. You are protecting yourself. And that brings us to the heart of emotional intelligence, the tool that turns self-awareness into self-transformation. Because knowledge alone won't change your life, only action will. And action requires emotional clarity. Emotional intelligence is not about controlling your emotions. Most people think emotional intelligence means staying calm all the time, not flinching, not reacting, not feeling anything too deeply. Wrong. Emotional intelligence is the ability to notice what you feel, understand why you feel it, and act on it intentionally, rather than react to it impulsively. It's not emotional control, it's emotional literacy. And Brianna Wiest makes this distinction beautifully. There's a difference between listening to your feelings and obeying them. Your feelings are signals, not instructions. Fear can say, "Slow down, look at this closely." But fear should not say, "Don't try." Sadness can say, "You're hurting." But sadness should not say, "Stop living." Anger can say, "This boundary matters." But anger should not say, "Destroy something." Emotional intelligence isn't about shutting emotions down. It's about hearing the message behind them. And once you do that, something incredible happens. Your emotions stop controlling you. You start using them. The power of the pause. Wiest introduces a technique so simple, most people overlook it. The pause. It sounds tiny, but it's revolutionary. Here's what usually happens. You feel discomfort, you act. You feel anxious, you scroll. You feel lonely, you text someone toxic. You feel overwhelmed, you quit. The pause interrupts that. It creates a gap between emotion and behavior, and that gap is where choice lives. That's the beginning of self-mastery. Even 5 seconds of pause can change the entire direction of a moment, and over time, the entire direction of your life. Because the truth is, most self-sabotage is impulsive. It's fast, automatic. The pause slows down the machinery. It gives your future self a fighting chance. Fear versus intuition, the real difference. If there's one concept in the book that hits people the hardest, it's this one.
Everyone wants to trust their instincts. But what if the instinct you're trusting is actually trauma? Here's the rule Wiest gives. Fear is loud. Intuition is quiet. Fear feels urgent. Intuition feels calm. Fear says, "Don't do this. You'll fail. Something bad will happen." Intuition says, "This matters. Move forward." Fear pushes you away from what you want. Intuition guides you toward it. But you can't hear intuition if your life is full of noise. You have to create space, silence, stillness, reflection. That's emotional intelligence in action, silencing the noise until truth becomes audible. Letting go of the old self. This is where the mountain gets steep. Because self-growth isn't just about adding new habits, it's about letting old identities die. And that is painful work. Why? Because the old self is familiar. Even if it's miserable, it's predictable. Letting go means becoming a stranger to yourself. And most people avoid that transformation because it feels like loss. But Wiest reframes it. Growth isn't losing who you are. It's discovering who you were always meant to be. The anger you're releasing, it protected you once. The walls you built, they kept you safe. The perfectionism, it shielded you from exposure. You're not rejecting your old self. You're honoring them, thanking them, and then saying goodbye. Because they got you here, but they can't take you further. Micro shifts, the only sustainable way up the mountain. Most people think change requires extremes. New diet, new job, new mindset, new life. Wiest says no. Real change happens in micro shifts, tiny adjustments, repeated consistently. The world loves dramatic transformations, but the brain does not. Your nervous system can't handle massive, sudden identity shifts. But it can handle 1% change daily. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Drink one more glass of water. Clean one corner of the room. Write one paragraph. Say one honest sentence. Take one deep breath before reacting. That's how mountains move, grain by grain. Small doesn't mean insignificant. Small means sustainable. And sustainable change is the only real change. Here's the turning point. Everything so far has been about understanding the mountain. But the next chapter is where the climb really begins. Because once you know what the mountain is made of, you can start breaking it apart. Piece by piece, thought by thought, belief by belief. And what comes next is the most important shift in the entire book. Realizing that the life you want is not built from motivation. It's built from identity.
So now we've reached the most powerful idea in the entire book, the identity shift. Because here's the truth. You don't change your life by trying to force new habits into an old identity. You change your life by becoming someone who naturally lives those habits. And that's the final climb of the mountain. Identity is the engine. Habits are the wheels. Most people say, I want to stop procrastinating. I want to be healthier. I want to save more money. I want to be happier. But those are outcomes. They don't mean anything without identity. When you identify as someone who procrastinates, every action requires willpower. When you identify as someone who is unworthy, every dream feels impossible. When you identify as someone who's broken, every step forward feels fake. Identity shapes behavior, not the other way around. Wiest says something life-altering. You are not trying to become someone new. You are trying to remember who you were before the world buried you.
The mountain is not becoming. The mountain is uncovering. You stop sabotaging the moment. You believe you're worth the result. This is the emotional core of the book. Self-sabotage isn't laziness or weakness or lack of discipline. It's self-protection. If deep down you don't believe you deserve success, you will reject it. If deep down you don't believe you deserve love, you will destroy it. If deep down you don't believe you are capable, you will avoid trying. This isn't mindset, it's identity. So the real work isn't forcing yourself to change. The real work is giving yourself permission to change. And that is terrifying, because permission means responsibility, but it also means freedom. The moment everything turns, and this is where my own life shifted. At one point in the book, Wiest says, "Your new life is going to cost you your old one." Not the old habits, the old identity. The version of you who needed approval, needed control, needed certainty, needed perfection, needed safety through self-sabotage. That version can't survive at the top of the mountain, because that version was built to survive, not thrive. Once you realize that, something miraculous happens. You stop trying to fix yourself. You start trying to free yourself. Becoming the hero, the final shift. The last chapters of the book are a love letter to the future version of you, the one standing on the other side of the mountain. And this is what you discover when you reach that place. The mountain was never blocking the path. It was the path. The climb shaped you, the friction refined you, the doubt trained you, the setbacks strengthened you. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you because you realize no one else is coming. And that's not sad, it's empowering. Because if no one else is coming, then you get to choose how your story goes. So what does that mean for you right now? It means this. If you're watching this video because something inside you feels stuck, heavy, confused, or lost, you're not failing. You are transforming. Your frustration is not a sign that you're behind. It's a sign that you're outgrowing who you used to be. That restlessness you feel, that's your future calling. That voice saying, there has to be more than this. That's you, waking up. Your mountain is not punishment, it's invitation. And you don't climb it by being fearless. You climb it by being honest. Honest about what hurts, honest about what's missing, honest about what you want. Because you can only change what you're willing to face. And if you're still here, listening, then hear this. You're ready. Even if you don't feel ready. That's what courage is. Moving anyway. Final takeaway. If this book teaches us anything, it's this. The hardest battles in life are fought within us, and the greatest victories are won there too. Your mountain wants to meet the real you, not the fearful you, not the old you, not the broken you, not the small you. The real you, the one beneath all that. The mountain is not there to stop you. It's there to show you who you are. And when you finally reach the top, you understand something profound. You were never climbing toward a destination. You were climbing toward yourself. If this hit home, don't just scroll. Hit subscribe. Take a breath and start letting go. Your mountain is waiting.